This is not pre-written, this a freestyle coming off the top. So who want box? You can't hang like Ruth Ellis, knock you out the ring like my name was Boots Ennis. He takes a CUSTIO Clayton, I'm sick of waiting for Charlo versus Castano. Trying to go 49-0 like Rocky Marciano. Nawablo, let's go. So Charlo Castano 2 this Saturday, undisputed 154-pound title on the line. It's a huge fight, huge. And this is what I was saying, like, yeah, you took the 2 losses, PBC, Caleb and Wilder, but you still got fights like this. It might not be the greatest box office smash, but yo, the real boxing fans want to see it. That's all I know. I had Charlo scraping the last fight. It wasn't very popular, my scorecard. You probably always have trouble with Castano's aggression, low center of gravity and punch volume, because he doesn't tie up very well, and like Bivol was doing, he doesn't know how to use his forearms and push off on a shorter guy and neutralize him from punching and then get his own shots off. He does have power, he does have a big jab though. He needs to double that up more, try and hold the ring center for as long as he can, which won't be very long. If anyone's going to score the spectacular KO, it's Jamel, but you could see Castano just taking it on points. You could see that too. Who's this trainer? Derek James? I think Derek James should have him boxing and moving more for this fight. You've got to be versatile. You've got to be adaptable fight to fight. I'm not going to say he's been exposed, but anyone knows if you walk towards this guy, he doesn't handle pressure that well. I mean, Tony Harrison abandoned his normal boxing style and walked towards him because he knows this guy, he can't tie up, he can't fight inside like that. He's a front runner. That's what he is. Doesn't really know how to push off his shorter opponents. Doesn't get up on his toes or anything like that. We know how Castano's going to fight. It's not like he doesn't know what Castano's going to do. He's going to get in there, try and weave the jab, and when he gets inside, he's going to work to head and body, and unless you tag him, he's going to keep working until you break the exchange off, which always gives off a good impression to the judges. They were both hurt in the first fight, from what I remember. They were both hurt. Castano weren't just going in there swarming. He was boxing. He was boxing on the front foot, picking jabs, body shots, and actually countering. So this is going to be a difficult fight for Jamal. Difficult fight. That's what I'm expecting. I don't know which way to pick, so I'm just going to enjoy watching this one when I get round to it. All I know, we should have an undisputed champion crowned at the end of it. The last one ended a draw. That was not satisfactory for all concerned, spectators, fighters, fans. So let's see a conclusive winner this time out. On the undercard we have CUSTIO Clayton and Geron Boots Ennis. Excellent fight. I think CUSTIO Clayton was hard done by against Lipinets. Should have got the W. Majority draw. But the man that we're talking about is Boots. Let's not write Clayton off totally. He's 19-0 with 1 draw against Lipinets. He has 12 stoppages. He's from Canada. He's 34 years of age. And we have Boots Ennis, 24 years of age. 28-0. No reverses, no draws, 26 knockouts. How long does he have in the weight class? Will he get the opportunity to test himself against the likes of a Crawford, a Spencer? This is the problem a lot of people are not seeing. This Crawford and Spence fight should have happened a long time ago. Like, there shouldn't be a new batch of contenders still waiting for them to sort out hierarchy at the top there. You know, when the likes of Crawford and Spence were established fighters in the game, nobody was talking about no Boots Ennis or Virgil Ortiz. And they still haven't fought each other yet. And the likes of Ortiz and Ennis are ranked contenders, and the likes of Conor Ben. It's not healthy for the sport. It's not healthy. If Boots has to move up to 154 to get something shaking because business hasn't been handled at 147 at the top, that's just like not acceptable to me. Not to me anyway. Now Boots got Lipinets out of there in 6. We're not doing triangle theories exactly. But you would have thought, without too much of a debate, the firepower belongs to Boots in the Battle of Unbeatens. Thomas Delorme, he managed to catch Boots a couple of times, but was flattened in 1 round late last year. Clayton got nice fundamentals, nice relaxed style, nice jab, good counter puncher. Will it be enough to offset Boots and get the W? I think he can do well in the first half of the fight, and then the more obviously dynamic tools of Boots should be able to either take over and get a points win or a stoppage. Although Clayton isn't one-dimensional, he can fight on the back foot and he can mix it up as well. What would be more appropriate for the fight? Does he need to get inside Boots' jab and start roughing him up and testing him? Or is he going to try and play it safe early? Boots, switch hitter, likes to let go with both hands. Got caught with a good shot by Delorme. You know, like, it was only the one shot. He wasn't hurt, but he was just letting his hands go and wasn't concerned about what was coming back. He's got that Philly, I want to fight mentality. Wants a knockout. I'm not going to pick against Boots, obviously, but I expect Clayton to give him a good test. If this match was made, would it satisfy the detractors and haters and doubters of Conor Benn? Because let's face it, 27 wins, 1 loss, 17 knockouts, former unified light welterweight champion, only lost his belts last year to Josh Taylor at 140, has since came back with a win over Pedraza. To me, that is a good fight for Conor Benn. Like, Eddie said he was going to step him up. This sounds like a good fight. If we're looking at what's available out there, it looks like a pretty good match to me. Some people will obviously disagree. At 29 years of age, Ramirez is probably due the jump up in weight. I mean, he's not a small light welter, and he's not a small welter at 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. How serious are both parties, Top Rank and Matchroom? Is Bob willing to sign him over to Matchroom and DAZN for the fight to be made, or will Conor have to go over the other side of the street? These are the issues with these fights here. They can't say Conor's fighting someone washed up here. What, 29 years of age? Would Conor even be the favourite? Conor is now 21-0, 14 stoppages. The Kell Brook fight is off the table because Kell Brook's retiring. Kell did his thing, man. He did his thing. He signed with Frank Warren in 2004, moved over to Matchroom. I think one of the first fights I remember him fighting was Michael Lomax. Was the Michael Lomax fight. The Michael Jennings fight, obviously, and the Matthew Hatton fights, they established him as one of the top welters in the country, maybe the best actually at the time. Scalps like Lovamore Endu. The 2 Carson Jones fights, like the first one, he had to dig deep. He started really well, but Carson came back into it and made him work. He had to change his diet, his workout regime and everything. That was a real wake-up call. You know what I mean? Start getting nutritionists in there and strength conditioners and all types of works. In a rematch, they bulked up to 151. That's what they made the weight limit. And Carson struggled in that one, didn't he? He struggled. There's some good wins there, man. Like, he knocked off Shevchenko after Shevchenko ruined Ricky Hatton's career, ended his career. The Sean Porter fight, just going for it quickly. He held when he had to hold, hit him with some accurate shots. I thought it was a lot closer, but can't deny him his big win. 2014 flavour that was. He was the first British fighter to go over to America since Lloyd Hunnigan and beat an unbeaten champion. There was a lot of people in America who actually thought Jojo Dan had prospects in Brook's first defense, but he was wiped out, wasn't he? Just like Frankie Gavin was and Kevin Bizier. You know, after them 3 relatively low-key defenses, the Golovkin fight was obviously a cash-out, and it didn't do his career much good. Fractured the right eye socket. That was for the unified middleweight titles at the time. Then he defended his IBF belt against Errol Spence, then fractured the left eye socket and was stopped in 11th. Moved up to 154, looked excellent against Sergei Rabchenko. And then the Michael Zarafa fight was a little worrying. Although the scorecards looked wide, it wasn't Kell's best moment. Destroyed Mark DeLuca, easy work. The Terence Crawford fight showed the gap in class between world class and elite. Then he won the grudge match against Amir Khan. The grudge started in 2004 with a sparring session. Then they met up in the Sky Studios where they were doing ringside, and Khan told him to get a belt. Brook got a belt. still didn't fight him. Khan taunted him, and a lot of people argue the fight came perhaps 10 years too late. But people wanted to see it, and it done good box office. It sold out the Manchester Arena, and that's where he ends his career. Hopefully, he's financially secure. He said boxing is a very, very tough sport where you can be legally killed. He's had a long talk with his family, and this is where he wants to get off. He definitely played his part in the Eddie Hearn era. He played his part from that Winker Bank setup, started by Brendan Ingle. Dominic Ingle was his trainer for most of his career. Had a few issues out the ring. Won't rehash them. I would just say this, like, Brook had a lot of attributes that you would want in a welterweight. He was strong. He was quick. He had a good jab. He could box. He was technically sound. And he was good to watch. He was definitely good to watch. He did your thing. Big up. The big issue with boxing today. Canelo was talking about fighting Makabu, a cruiserweight champion with a high knockout percentage. And there were people saying this is cherry picking over Jamal Charlo, who's too scared to fight David Benavidez at 168. There are people who champion these PBC fighters like Benavidez and Charlo, and we can't even get them in the ring. But you're championing them to get a huge fight with Canelo. I'm not saying they shouldn't or it's impossible for them to get it, but it's really down to Canelo, because them themselves haven't done anything to create any public demand where the public are saying they really want to see it. You know, let's not act like the last opponent Jamal was left with to pick was Selecki. No. He had to turn down the Benavidez fight. Let's not pretend people wouldn't have preferred to see him against Adonis than Suzuki. And then Benavidez is fighting David Lemieux. Come on, man, like, it's a joke. You know, Canelo's fighting Bivol, and unless you really have a low IQ on boxing, like, the levels of opponent choices is not even a discussion. We need to get that straight. And right now, they've dropped the bag because there's going to be a rematch between Bivol and Canelo, and then the winner may be looking at undisputed with the winner of Beterbiev and Smith. And then I'm led to believe that they were going to give Canelo $55 million to fight Errol Spence at 164, where we've never even seen Errol Spence take a warm-up fight at 154, let alone 164, let alone at 160. You know, the way people are reacting to Canelo losing to a natural light heavy, and he is a natural light heavy, he's just not the biggest light heavy. They're acting like it was the worst beating in boxing ever, and it wasn't. And I'm just going to keep it real with you Bivol fans. I like Bivol's performance, but if he was fighting a smaller man back in the day, and they saw him moving and angling away from him at times and not committing to a knockout, there'd be a lot of press members and fans not impressed. Just telling you straight. Sugar Ray Robinson lost to Joey Maxim for the light heavyweight crown. He was moving up from middle. There wasn't a 168 or 154 back then. In all truth, if there was a 154 pound division, Ray would have probably went there rather than middle, because there were times he'd weigh 157 on the day of the fight weigh-ins, 157. He wasn't exactly a huge middleweight compared to today's standards. And Ray was celebrated for taking on Joey Maxim for that light heavyweight title. And he didn't get there. He didn't get to the final bell. He was ahead on points. Like, the Yankee Stadium was sweltering, apparently. The referee was carried out due to heat exhaustion and replaced. Maxim, who fought an economical fight while Ray used a lot of movement and threw a lot of punches, was able to handle the heat better than Ray did, and Ray fell apart in the 13th and couldn't come out for the 14th round. But Ray was celebrated for taking on a light heavyweight champion. I mean, look at that. Ray weighed in at 157. 157. Maxim weighed in 173. Now, can't really quite compare the two challenges. Canelo's never fought anyone where he was outweighed by 16 pounds. Never. And he never will. Weird. Yeah, at least Canelo attempted to fight a light heavyweight champion. At least he attempted. You know, nobody's asking, why ain't no more 154, 160, 168, whatever you want to call Canelo, trying to fight a cruiserweight champion. But you're saying it's a cherry pick, but no one else is trying it. I wonder why. Maybe it's because your lack of boxing knowledge don't understand that this 200-pound black man from the Congo with the high knockout percentage could end your career if you go in that ring with him. Now, PD asterisks aside on his resume, are some of you downplaying what Canelo was doing in there? Because I watched that fight again, and I noticed he was rolling a lot more punches than he was given credit for. The fight wasn't the one-sided blowout that a lot of people are saying it is. That's my opinion. And Bivol himself came out and said, I was shocked by his upper body and head movement. It was hard to catch him. So I was right. I know I'm right on what I'm saying. I know I'm not the most popular uploader when it comes to boxing. And I'm not trying to be either. I do know a lot of people quote what I say, whether it's YouTube channels or more established people. I do know that. I do know a lot of uploaders have copied my material as well. I know that 100% too. And, you know, they haven't gave me a credit like, yo, this is what Beat said. No, they just said it like they came up with it. And then the whole thing with Eddie Hearn. Oh, big loss for Eddie. How is it a big loss for Eddie? I'm not understanding what you guys are saying. It's a big loss for Eddie. Eddie didn't throw Canelo in there blind. He gave Canelo the Bivol option. He knew how good Bivol was. He said when they compared Bivol to Kovalev, he said, nah, this isn't Kovalev. This is one of Canelo's stiffest challenges. Eddie knows what's happening. What we're talking about, a $50 million guarantee for Canelo and a reported cap of $40 million is what he'll take home. Some reports say 50 mil. Do you think they're going to pay him all that money for a fight he's guaranteed to win? I mean, a lot of you picked Bivol to win. And Canelo didn't build Matchroom. He didn't build Eddie Hearn. He didn't build the Eddie Hearn brand. They came together when they were both successful. Eddie knows nothing lasts forever. He said himself, I don't think Canelo will re-sign with Matchroom after this free fight deal is up. When that free fight deal is up, it's obvious what the reactionaries are going to post up. Oh, it's all over for Eddie. It's all over. So what? The rest of Eddie's promoting career lives or dies based on if he's with Canelo. Isn't his job to go find talent and go make fights for the broadcaster? So you're thinking he's just relying on Canelo and Anthony Joshua to do that? I mean, it's a little short-sighted. And late last year, the PBC took two big hits, almost consecutive pay-per-views, with Caleb Plant getting knocked out by Canelo for Undisputed, and Wilder getting knocked out by Tyson Fury. Two pay-per-views on the bounce. Where was all this, oh, the PBC are finished now? No, you go back and you have to retweak a few things because there was no rematch clauses there for either Caleb or Wilder. But there's something about Eddie and AJ where people just overanalyze their situations. Just overanalyze it. Maybe that just tells you how popular they are, I guess. That it throws people into a bit of a loop when they talk about them. Yeah, the PBC took two big losses. No rematch clauses. And you've seen, like, they've tried to recoup some of that money they gave to the likes of Canelo when they're making pay-per-views with Charles Martin and Luis Ortiz and Keith Thurman and Barrios. Now, they've took a hit. They took a big hit. I'd understand if Eddie was giving Canelo the bag like that and didn't have the capacity to retain his services for the next fight or two, but that's not the case here. That's what happened with Al when he made the Caleb and Canelo fight. But Eddie's circumstances are not the same. I'm not seeing where this big destruction of the dynasty is. I'm not seeing where it is. I mean, the PBC took a massive loss, but it's still going. They're still going. You know, Canelo didn't build the DAZN brand. He didn't build it. If anyone boxer you could attribute to Eddie graduating from Matchroom to DAZN and from Sky to DAZN, it would be AJ, if anyone. Promoters can't rely on boxers staying unbeaten forever. You do understand this. No promoter can rely on a boxer to stay unbeaten to sustain his business. What happens is, like, let's say with AJ, you do the huge pay-per-view with Dillian and AJ, And that was just for the British title. Then you get the Klitschko fight. Showtime, they want a piece of that. Then you get the DAZN deal. Then you get to expand Matchroom USA. So if AJ loses, Eddie already has an empire built on his success with AJ and the other fighters too. AJ himself has a substantial stable there at 258 Management. This is a success story. R.I.P. Jurgen BLIN, former European heavyweight champion. He challenged Muhammad Ali for the world title in 1971 in Switzerland. He lost in 7. He fought the likes of Ron Lau and got stopped. 2 fights with Joe Bugner. Took Joe to a split decision in one of the fights and was stopped in the other. Wasn't a huge heavyweight, but he had a lot of heart, a lot of guts. He passed away recently, age 79. I meant to cover this one. It's quite funny. Shakur Stevenson said he's not going to let the Valdez win go to his head like Lopez did with Lomachenko. Well, that's just it. You beat Valdez. How are you going to let that go to your head? It's a good win, but you beat Valdez. Beating Lomachenko is a different category of win from Valdez. I don't do the pound-for-pound thing. Does a win against Valdez propel you into the rankings there? I wouldn't have thought so. You need to do a bit more. Don't let no win get to your head. No win. You know, like, it has to be said, like Lopez, after that Lomachenko victory, he thought he could go against his promoter and seek a purse bid elsewhere for the Kambosos fight. That didn't pan out. I thought he'd done the right thing at the time, though, to be honest. Going with Triller. It turned out to be a disaster. Then, when the fight actually happened, he didn't seem to have a game plan, got floored early, just rushing out there. And in the subsequent interviews, since losing to Kambosos, the kid needs to find himself. He really needs to get grounded and get back on his grind. But as for Shakur, go beat someone in a 50-50 or someone you're not favoured to beat. And then tell us that you're not going to get big-headed after the victory. I picked Shakur to beat Valdez. Most people did. It was a good win, though.